Hello, everyone, and welcome to ITLS Academy Empower the Youth. So, today in this lecture, we will going to understand the characteristics of biological hazards in food. So, we all are aware that these hazards are very harmful for human health. They are a threat to human health, and they have a very negative effects on human body. Hazards are basically divided into four categories. The first is physical hazard, second is a chemical hazard, third is your biological hazard, and the last one is the microbiological hazards. So, hazards, they are a substance. I'm talking about the biological hazard. So, they are the substances that are produced by organism and that has a direct threat to human health. They are major concern in food processing because they can cause foodborne illness outbreak. And whenever these hazards occur in any kind of food, so that food become deteriorated, and if a person consume that particular food that has a biological hazard, so it leads to a foodborne illness, and this illness sometimes leads to a death of a person. So, hazards are very dangerous for human health. They have a very threatening effect on human health, or in simple language, you can say that these hazards have a negative impact on human health. So, what are the, you can say, causes of biological hazards? So there are different types of agent, you can say, or a microorganism that has very serious pose on a threat on a human health. That is, one is a salmonella bacteria, rotavirus, norwalk virus. So these are some important examples of biological hazards. So when salmonella bacteria occurs in any food item, so it deteriorates the quality of the food item, it makes the food unacceptable for human consumption, and if a person consume that particular food item, that person will get ill. Sometimes the diseases are these foodborne diseases, they are preventable, but at times this foodborne illness or diseases, they become so severe or they become so critical that sometime a death of a person can also occur. So if you can refer to my some of the lectures that is based on the hazards, what is the outbreak of hazards on globally, and in let's me give you an example of this. In US, I'm talking about US only. So in US, out of 6 people, one people die because of foodborne illness. And since the population is growing at a very alarming rate, since people are becoming more aware, population are growing very fast, so there is a more and more demand on of food. And yes, to meet that demand, the companies are working day and night, and the main objective of production of the food is to serve the food, as well as to see that whatever food is manufactured in a particular industries should be of high quality and should be abide by all the regulatory guidelines. Now coming to the next. Now this chart is very important because this chart itself has every type of hazard. So now coming to the definition, that what is actually a hazard is, so anything with the potential to cause harm. Okay, anything, I'm not talking about any organism or any chemical or physical, so anything that has the ability or that has a potential to cause a harm, it is known as hazard. Okay, so the first one is biological hazard, second is your chemical hazard, and the third one is the physical hazard. One hazard is left in this table, that is a microbiological hazard. So yeah, it's written here because biological and microbiological is somewhat very similar, so I have just couple it in a same heading, that is a micro and biological hazard. So food poisoning, foodborne diseases is come under the microbiological. So anything that is related to food, okay, and if that of a particular food becomes deteriorated, so that is known as hazards. And if it is because a food is deteriorated or it is becoming unacceptable for human consumption because of any organism, because of any microorganism, then it simply means the microbiological hazard. The sources are microorganisms that are present in raw materials because of the cross contamination, because of the multiplication or toxins, because of the survival, that is spore and toxin. Now coming to the chemical. So any food poisoning or chronic illness that occurs through any chemical, like the present in any raw material, like cleaning agents are there, pesticide, weed killers, allergens, excessive additives, poisonous food, so that leads to a chemical hazard. Now coming to the physical hazard. Now cut to mouth, choking, broken teeth, internal injury, burning, that occurs, that is the source are present in any raw materials, foreign bodies introduced during the production and preparation. So let's give you an example of the chemical hazard, because already I've given you the example of the microbiological hazard. So chemical hazards, like let's take an example to understand this, that any chemical that is present in the lab or that is present in an industries, if accidentally occur or by chance it leads in the food item, it deteriorate the quality, whether any pesticides accidentally or mishandled. So because of the cross contamination or any cleaning agent if left behind in an equipment, and in the same equipment if you are making any food item, then of course the cross contamination took place and the food get deteriorated. Similar case is the physical means any type of animal hair, or because a person who is working, he or she is ill, and if there is a internal injury because of the cross contamination, so if any foreign particle gets into the food item, it deteriorates the quality of the food. Now, generally speaking, what is the risk that is associated with this hazard? So these organism, whenever I am saying these organism, for example, these organism simply means microorganism, and these organism include bacteria, viruses, different types of mold, yeast. Okay, so these organism, they can affect human health. Okay, so which type of human health they are affecting? So they include infection, intoxication, and sometimes even the death of person. But to be very honest, the foodborne diseases or the foodborne illness, they are curable, they are preventable, unless and until no initial you can say no initial step is taken, or no initial barrier is taken to avoid that particular infection. If no action is taken, then of course after a longer period of time it will get deteriorated, it will become more severe, and sometimes it becomes chronic and death of a person. But at a very initial stage, it is preventable and you can prevent it. So infections, they occurs when organism, means then when microorganism invade the host. So when infection occur, so simple answer is whenever any microorganism, whenever it is invading any host. Okay, so once it invade or it get entry inside the body of the host, what they do inside the body after getting entry, they multiply in the body at a very fast rate, because we all know that microorganisms have a tendency to multiply very fast. Okay, so in that particular case, microorganism is multiplying at a very fast rate. So whenever a microorganism is multiplying at a very fast stage, so it is invading the host, and infections occur. Now, intoxication occurs when a bacteria produce toxin that affected the body. So what do you, so we have already discussed what is infection. Now the second heading is intoxication, because these are the short terms, and these short terms can be asked in the interviews, can be asked in the examination, and for your also knowledge, these terms are very important. So infection we have covered. Now the second is the intoxication. Since the name suggests intoxication, so it occurs when bacteria produces toxins, and these toxins they affect the body. Now infection can be prevented by properly processing. Okay, whenever I've already told you that these foodborne illness or hazard that occurs through the infection, or that occurs through microorganisms, they are preventable. Okay, there are medicines, there are treatments that are present, there are diagnostic centers that are there, and by following that step you can prevent the infection. Okay, so these infections they are prevented by a properly processing, or whenever you are handling the food, so the proper handling of the food product can prevent the infection. Okay, and because pathogens are easily destroyed by heat, so because of the heat treatment also you can prevent the infection. So there are different methods also that we will going to discuss in the next lecture, that what are the method through which you can help sorry, you can inhibit the growth of microorganisms. So the first is the heat, because at a very extreme high temperature some microorganism cannot survive. Okay, so these pathogens can easily destroyed by heat, and in this way you can inactivate the pathogens. However, some bacteria that I've told you in the extensive lecture, you can refer to that lecture for better understanding, that there are some bacteria that can even survive at the very high temperature, that is known as thermophiles bacteria. And at a very high temperature what they make spore. Okay, so here are some examples of spore forming bacteria. The detail I have already discussed in my previous lecture, that is lecture number 7. You can refer to that lecture for better understanding that what is a spore forming bacteria, and how they can survive at a very high temperature or an extreme temperature. So I have just mentioned that you can refer to that lecture for better understanding. Here are some examples of the spore forming bacteria. The first one is your Bacillus cereus and Clostridium botulinum are some of the examples. Now coming to the next, that is toxins again. So toxins they are produced when toxin producing bacteria are present in a high number. So not only toxins, any infection, it occurs when the bacteria can easily invade or get entry inside the host body. Then of course these the foodborne illness occurs. And now when and how these toxins they are produced. So these toxins they are produced when toxin producing bacteria, so bacteria that are capable of producing toxins, they are present in a very high number, then in that particular case these toxins are produced. Now bacteria must first grow in the food before producing the toxins, because bacteria also need medium, bacteria also need nutrient for their survival. So once the bacteria get the proper amount of nutrients, once the bacteria get proper amount of growth medium in the food, they easily produce the toxin. So some toxins are difficult to eliminate. Okay, because some toxins are very difficult to eliminate from the bodies, and you need certain types of medications. So some are difficult to, and some may survive normal cooking temperature, that already told you in the previous lecture, that some can survive at a room temperature, some can and be easily can you can आप उसको body से निकाल सकते हो. और अपने फूड से भी उसको एलिमिनेट कर सकते हो. बट समटाइम्स द टॉक्सिन्स आर सो डिफिकल्ट बिकॉज एट रूम at a very extreme temperature they can also grow or they can also survive. So at that particular temperature, or sorry, point of time, it is very difficult to eliminate that bacteria or to, yeah, eliminate that bacteria. Now the risk of intoxication is prevented by controlling the growth of toxins producing bacteria. Now generally one question arises that how you can avoid the growth of the toxins. So you can easily avoid the growth of toxins once you prevent or you control the growth of toxins producing bacteria. If you done this, if you do this, so there are chances that you can lower the risk of intoxication. So it is very important that at a way you first you control the growth of toxins producing bacteria. Now what are some examples? Again, Clostridium species, that is Clostridium botulinum, Bacillus species, Staphylococcus aureus. So these are some of the examples. Now next is the major biological hazards. So what are the major biological hazards? So coming to the first, that is bacteria. So some of the examples of bacteria are given here, like Salmonella species. Now you can refer to the next lecture also, where I will be explaining all these pathogenic or foodborne pathogens in detail, how they grow in the food, what are the causes, and how you can prevent them. So here are some examples again. So the first example is Salmonella species, E. coli. Okay, so there are Clostridium species, Vibrio. So all these are some of the species, some of the bacteria that causes a major food biological hazards. Now coming to the viruses, then hepatitis A, Norwalk virus, rotavirus. These are some of the example that is related to the virus. Now coming to the major sources of biological contaminants in food. So what are the major sources? Yes, this is again a very important to understand. Sources is simply, sometimes sources are external, sometimes sources are internal. Okay, like animal gut or any fecal contamination is the source of food contamination. Then soil or contaminated water, or because of the cross contamination. Sometimes human also play an important role in contamination. Human contamination due to poor hygiene or poor personal hygiene. Even the fecal contamination, failure in infection control like illness not reported, cross contamination of food product spread from processing environment due to the poor or improper sanitation. So let us take an example to understand the first one, that is animal gut. So see, if there is a meat product and the animal is slaughtered, okay, and if the animal is not cleaned properly before slaughtering, so then there is a great chances or the high chances of microorganism to get easily inside the animal, and in the raw meat there is a high chances of microorganism, because sometimes the skin of the animal, it is covered with some types of dirt, soil is there, some types of leaf or whatever the food they consume, they have that in their body. Similar case is with the dairy product. If the food, if the cow or a buffalo is not cleaned properly before taking the milk outside, then of course there is a chances of microbial contaminant. So it is said that the area where the slaughtering or where the milking is done, that area should be properly sanitized, so that there is a very less chances of microorganism. Similar case is with the personal or human contamination. See, workers who is working in the industries, who is working in the food industry, should always maintain a proper hygiene. because by making a proper hygiene, the cross contamination or the cross contamination is very less. Personal hygiene should be maintained so that no chances of contamination could occur. Okay, the food will also not get deteriorated because of the poor handling. Every person should be wearing mask. If a person who is working or who has a direct contact in the food manufacturing, he or she is ill, he should directly report that he or she is ill and he or she cannot touch the food. Not in that sense, but since he or she is not well, so these people, once they are not well, they cannot handle the food properly because of the chances of contamination. So to avoid everything, a person should wear a proper mask, should wear a proper gloves, should have a proper dress, so that there is no chance left for the contamination. Now, what are the factors that affect the growth of microorganism? So the factors are extrinsic factor or intrinsic factor. You can refer to lecture number 6 and 7, where the detail of factors that affects the growth of microorganism is being explained. So here I'll just read it out for you, that there are factors, that is intrinsic factor, that is known as internal factor. Then there is extrinsic factors, that is known as external factors. Then emergent factors are there, implicit factors are there, and the processing factors are there. Everything is being taught you in very detail in my previous lecture. So let us take an example again to understand this. The temperature, again, I'm repeating again and again, but yes, all these things I have mentioned in my previous lecture. So for better understanding, you can refer to that lecture, that is lecture number 6 and lecture number 7. So the temperature, the values for the temperature values for the microbial growth depends upon the type of microorganism. Okay, so as already told you, depending upon the type of depending upon the temperature, microorganisms are divided into categories, that is psychrophiles, thermophiles, mesophiles. Okay, so psychrotrophs such as Leschia monocytogens grow at a refrigeration temperature, that is 4 degrees centigrade to or 39 degree Fahrenheit, whereas thermotrophs can grow at a very higher temperature, that is 45 degree or above the 45 degree centigrade. Now coming to the pH, so the pH of the product, that is related to the acidity or alkalinity of the product. The pH of the product affects the growth of bacteria, because some of the bacteria can grow in the range of 5 to 9. Some can grow above them, some bacteria can grow below that. Depending upon the type, they are also being divided into categories. Acidophiles are there, mesophiles are there. Now coming to the next, that is the water activity. We all know that water play a very important role whenever the growth of microorganism is concerned, because water is the hub for the microorganism, and in the water the microorganism grow very well. So it is very important, okay, to have a food that has a very less moisture, because at a very high level of water these bacteria can easily grow, and it is very important to avoid the high degree or high content of moisture. If that is the reason, if a food that is a dry item, it has more shelf life than as compared to the food item that has a water content in it. If you take an example to understand that your at your place, rice has a longer shelf life as compared to the meat product or any milk product or any vegetable or fruits, because it has a moisture content in itself, whereas the rice do not have moisture content. So that is the reason you can have a longer shelf life of the rice as compared to the meat or any food product that has a moisture content, example milk, example meat, example fruits and vegetables. Now coming to the control and prevention, so it is very important to have a control on the growth of microorganism, because again these microorganisms are so tiny, so naked, that you cannot see with your naked eyes, and they are, since they are very tiny, but they have a great or a high deterioration property, and they can lead to different types of foodborne illness, foodborne diseases. So it is very important to control the growth of microorganism. So the most effective way to control the biological hazard or hazards are is by prevention, means you prevent them. And how you prevent? Through by the implementation of GMPs, that is good manufacturing practices, by the implementation of HACCP, that is hazard analysis critical control point. So it is again very important to implement these regulatory bodies, because these bodies are working for the betterment of the quality of the food. And it is very important for every food industries, whether it's a food industries or even I will say any pharma industries or any cosmetic industries, to have a implementation of these regulatory aspect, because their main aim is to provide the food or provide the drug or provide any cosmetic product of a high quality and free from any sort of microbial contamination. So it is very important for every industries to abide by these HACCP, GMPs, GLPs and many other guidelines that is good for the people and good for the quality of the food items. Now GMPs. So GMPs is the first regulatory aspect, and it is accepted worldwide, and it ensures that hazard associated with the personal and environmental are controlled during the food production. And yes, now these food, since the hazard is controlled, now the food is free from any sort of microbial contamination, and it is free, and it is good for consumption. It is not good, it is fit for consumption. Now coming to the next, that is a HACCP. So HACCP, it is a hazard analysis critical control point, and it controls the hazard that may be present in the ingredient, or they may be present in the time of packaging material, and or they can also and also those that occur during the food processing, packaging and storage. So hazard look into all the department, that is processing, packaging and storage. So now comes the processing strategies to control biological hazards. So these are certain these are certain processing strategies that control the biological hazards. So the effective thermal processing used to used as a kill step, that is cooking or pasteurization, use of appropriate process control. So they are also helping in to control the biological, or you can say the different kinds of hazard. How they are controlling? They are controlling through by cooking or by pasteurization, and should have a proper storage system, that is the food should store at a very appropriate temperature. Example, coolers and freezer can also help in extending the shelf life, in inhibiting the growth of microorganism. Similar is the processing parameter, means temperature and time of for cooking, means how much time is needed to cook a food product. It is again very important. Then at what temperature the food is being cooked. Okay, it also decide the inhibition of microorganisms growth. And water activity, already told you in the previous slide. Then comes your dehydration. Okay, so this comes under the processing parameters. Then is your adequate cooling system, effective cleaning and sanitization process, that is SSOPs, used of food technology to prevent the growth of bacteria or any biological hazards, like packaging or techniques like different packaging is being there. and it is where if you refer to my lecture number 7, where I have given a very good examples of why CO2 is used for packaging of food materials. It is very helpful for you as well. That is again an important slide lecture for you, so you can refer to lecture number 7 for that reason. And here's packaging materials, like example vacuum packaging, modified atmospheric packaging. It also helps to control the biological hazards. Different preservatives are added to the food items, so these preservatives extend the shelf life of the food items and they inhibit the growth of microorganisms. Now the processing techniques, that is dehydration, is again very much important techniques to control the biological hazards. Now very important slide, in 2020, one of the virus that occur, and that year is also known as the pandemic worldwide, and that is because of the COVID virus. So during the COVID virus, if you see this diagram, how we are controlling the COVID virus so that it cannot attack us. So we are maintaining a social distance, we are using different kinds of sanitizers, we are making sure that we have a good immune system, we are building our immune system at our home by consuming some citrus medicines, and many things are again there, that we are just focusing how to avoid these type of pathogens, and we are wearing masks in the public so that there should be no cross contamination between peoples. And because of this, we are doing, we are preventing the entry of the this harmful COVID virus. Okay, so in the image itself shows that we are washing and sanitizing the hands very frequently. We have self isolated from the public so that we cannot come in contact with the public. And apart from that, we are practicing social distancing. We are using disinfectant, that is a high touch surface, and cuff into your elbows or tissues and dispose of tissues right away. And we are wearing a mask if one is sick, and if one wants to avoid the communications to other people. And we are avoid non-essential as well as international travel so that we cannot get any chance of contamination. So this is how we have recently prevented ourselves from the COVID viruses, and this is the recent example, and we all are very well aware of all these scenario. So now that's come to the end of the lecture. I hope you have understood the lecture. If you have any doubt, any query, so you can leave your queries in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. Please do like, share and subscribe. Thank you.